going on to Texas right now. So some of you do know our story. There's my husband. I needed him. So almost 11 years ago, on a sunny June morning, we welcomed Jilli and Faith Earthside. And she's back here. Here she is. Her bright eyes and her sweet spirit captured us instantaneously, and we fell in love. She was not our first child, so we were pretty sure we had this whole parenting thing figured out. We were just excited to welcome her into our family and have a new addition, pretty laid back about it. A few hours after birth, Jilli began twitching, is what I called it. Hold on, baby. Sorry, 4-year-old. A few hours after birth, we noticed Jilli's body was twitching. It was unusual and not something I had seen our first daughter do. I was told it was probably just a neurological immaturity, and it would more than likely stop within a few days. But it didn't stop. At less than 1 week old, Jilli began having full-blown grand mal seizures. I'm sorry. By the time she had reached just 1 month old, she was having 40 to 50 grand mal seizures a day, every day. And no one could tell me why, and no one could tell me how to make them stop. And so our journey began. A journey full of doctors, specialists, tests, and needles, sleepless nights of researching, grasping for answers for anything that I could find that might bring my baby some relief. The doctors put her on several pharmaceuticals, and none of them worked. We watched helplessly as our tiny, tiny girl was taken over by these violent and heart-wrenching seizures. There was nothing that we could do, only comfort her as she screamed out in fear after each one. It was absolutely the hardest thing I have ever done. As a parent, unable to help the one who needed me the most. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. The visions of my girls having tea parties together turned into the reality of my oldest learning how to help her sister through a seizure. Though their bond grew, it was much different than what I had imagined. We found some seizure reduction with the implementation of different supplements and diet changes, but even then we never reached total seizure control or even close. She still faced them every day. As I learned what these seizures were doing to her little body, how hard they were on her muscles, and how damaging they could be to her brain, my desire to find an answer grew stronger. One of her neurologists told me that her brain was so busy having seizures that it didn't have time to do anything else. This was unacceptable to me, as it would be to any parent, and I knew I couldn't stop until I found an answer. Then a little over 2 years ago, a dear friend sent me an article about a little girl in Colorado finding seizure relief from cannabis oil. I wasn't quite sure what to think. It's a really touchy subject, giving your kid any kind of marijuana. I was still full of the propaganda and the stigma, so I was concerned, but I was intrigued, so I kept researching. A few days later, we watched the Sanjay Gupta weed documentary on CNN, and my husband and I, we both knew what we had to do. We knew that as crazy as it sounded, we had to get Jilli to Colorado so she could try cannabis oil, and that's exactly what we did. Over the past 2 years, we have relocated twice to Colorado, only to have to return to Texas because we weren't able to secure any employment there. We've drained our savings account, we've sold houses, sold all of our things just to get there 2 times. While we were there, Jillian was on cannabis oil, and the results were amazing. It was the answer that I had been searching for since her seizures began. Over 80% seizure reduction, relief of muscle spasticity, and no more sleepless nights. We had finally found it, and it was like a dream come true. Woo! Marijuana gave my daughter the quality of life that we had feared would never be possible, with 0 side effects. I didn't have to worry about what her medicine was doing to her organs or what horrible side effects she would have as she got older. A little soggy here. It was safe, and marijuana worked for her. Since returning to Texas, we can no longer give her the life-saving medicine that she so desperately needs, just like so many of you and so many of your loved ones. Just last weekend, my husband and I found Jilli in a status seizure in her bed. When we were in Colorado, I was able to use THC oil. I just rub it on her gums and it could bring her out of a long seizure just like that. Here, the only option was a pharmaceutical that has a laundry list of side effects. I spent the whole day last Saturday monitoring her heart rate and respirations to make sure her body was handling the rescue medication and that we didn't need to transport her to the hospital. When we lived in a legal state, the pharmaceutical rescue medications were a last resort. Here in Texas, it is our only option for now. It is so frustrating to know that just a few hundred miles from our home, people are legally treating themselves and loved ones without fear of being arrested or charged with a crime. Our zip code should not dictate whether or not my child can have her medicine. On the back of our Team Jilli shirts, which Dulce is, oh, there she is. Dulce designed these for us, and we're so thankful. On the back of these shirts, excuse me, there's a quote from Dr. Gupta. It says, it says, for 3,000 years, marijuana was a legitimate medication. We have been terribly and systematically misled for nearly 70 years in the United States. And I don't know about all of you, but I think 70 years is long enough. States all across this country are changing bad laws that have forced families like ours and other individuals to have to sell their homes, uproot, and move away from family and friends. Laws that have put good people behind bars for simply using a God-given plant to medicate or to recreate. States are changing these laws and allowing their citizens safe legal access. If we would have been able to give Jilli cannabis oil at the onset of her seizures, she would be a different child today. Because her condition is degenerative, treating with cannabis early would have saved her from so much pain and given her brain the ability to learn and grow. Although we know she would still have some issues, we know that she would be a lot different than she is because of the side effects of so many of the medications that she's had to be on. My heart breaks when I think of how different things could have been if only her home state hadn't chosen to keep the one medication that actually works as a classified illegal substance. This is why I fight, to give Jillian the hope for a better future where she can legally have her medicine, and to ensure that no other families have to endure the kind of hell that we have endured. It is time for Texas to show true compassion to its citizens, and we will continue to fight with all of you and for all of you, and we will never, ever give up. Thank you so much.